He was handpicked by Prime Minister Modi to come here and head the Defence Ministry. A year into office and actually into this job for a much shorter time, we are interviewing today Manohar Parrikar, India's Defence Minister. Thanks a lot for joining us, sir. This is the first anniversary of your government, so many congratulations there. You have a long way to go and we're going to talk of each step as and when it happens. But I want to first talk to you not as a journalist. There's something that I read and it has disturbed me a lot. So just as a citizen of this country, the CAG report says that there is a crippling shortage as far as India's military preparedness is concerned. If there were to be a war, we can perhaps sustain it only for 10 or 20 odd days. Forget about me being a journalist. Forget about me being from ET now. I'm rather scared of this situation. What have you done to amend the legacy that you had inherited, if I may?
First of all, I don't think you should be
scared at all.
Scared at this stage, because the report which you refer is for the year ending 31st March 2013. It's already 2 years old data.
Right.
Of course, CAG always does the post-mortem and they can't be projecting the future. But let me assure you, during last 1 year, a lot of changes have happened. And we have taken steps by which I would say more or less 50% of what they have indicated as a criticality has already been addressed. And by next year, I expect to bring it down to only around 15-20%.
That's right.
So a year thereafter, there should not be any criticality.
So we should not be worried, we are in safe hands, as they say.
Yes. But I will also like to point out that you cannot have a common average for every ammunition you require.
That's right, yes.
There has been earlier guidelines which says that 30 days of intense war and 1 month, 30 days of low intensity war. That means equivalent to 40 days of intense war,
yes.
The ammunition should be held. That may not be required for every kind of ammunition.
Fair point.
Depends on whether you manufacture it in India.
That's right.
Or you depend on foreign countries, as also the cost.
You know, a month after you came into office, which was December of 2014, you had taken office in November, the Parliamentary Standing Committee had said that Indian Air Force is down to just 25 fighter squadrons from a sanctioned strength of 42, and that is likely to go down to 11. I know you've stitched a deal as far as the Rafales are concerned, but they're going to take another 2 years to come on stream and may arm just 2 squadrons. Just from an analysis point of view, the fact that HAL Tejas may take another year to be operationally inducted, is that a scenario that bothers you?
Indian Air Force is 35 squadron. Of course, there are gaps. Some of the squadrons have lesser number than what is required, but there is a projected scenario for which we have already taken the action. I am not talking only Rafale.
That's right.
Rafale is 2 squadrons. But we are also pushing the LCA program. We are upgrading Jagar and Mirage 2000. We are adding Su-30 to the another maybe 4 to 5 squadrons have to be added. So we are taking appropriate precaution to ensure that we try and reach towards 42 rather than go down.
That's a fair scenario. You're trying to also expedite procurement. I'm going to talk to you in just a bit on that. But I think a couple of days back you said that the team from Rafale is here and you're trying to put the final plan in place. Where are we on that procurement?
We have already appointed our committee, and that committee is in discussion with the French government team. Yes. We are not dealing with the company, we are dealing with the French government. That is one of the precondition, because it's a joint statement by Prime Minister and the President of France. So it's a French government we are dealing with, and their team was also here last week and they had a preliminary round. Though I don't intend to take details of what was discussed in between.
Sure.
We expect coming to conclusion pretty fast.
You had also expanded and expounded on the fact that how will the Make in India initiative fit into all of this, and you had said that 50% offset will happen from this deal as far as Make in India is concerned. The question that some critics, if I may, and if I may quote them, have raised is that can India manufacture stuff sophisticated enough to be procured by companies like these?
If you can send a rocket to Mars, I think we
Less
can.
than a cost of a movie production.
Then I think we could definitely have technical capabilities. It's question of managerial skills and filling in the gaps. Secondly, offset does not mean you manufacture the full plane. System required for the aircraft, some of the systems are to be manufactured here through under the offset, but more important than the offset, the real make in India would come because we have decided to get 2 squadrons of Rafale. You must realize that it's freeing about 65,000 crores.
That's right.
Assuming that the deal was 1 lakh.
True.
It's just for a budgetary figure. I'm not going into the actual. Don't take it. Don't divide it by 126 and come to conclusion that the price. But it was more than 1 lakh crores. If you had bought all the 126. Releasing more than 65,000 or I would say around 65% of the value of the deal, I think itself is a available money for a LCA program or addition of some other make in India aircraft.
So if I may talk to you about Rafale, and one report that I was reading is that this government is effectively using the defense procurement tool as a foreign policy tool as well. Look at what you've done. You have acquired from France. You are in talk with the US as far as the global masters are concerned. You are also acquiring helicopters from Russia. Am I right in presuming, and am I right in asking you this question, that is defense procurement a good foreign policy tool?
How many things you benefit out of a particular deal or a particular exercise, I will not like to comment, because when we eat, for example, a tasty food not only satisfies our hunger, which is the primary aim of the food, but also satisfies us because of its good taste. Or a food you like gives you a feeling of satisfaction. There could be other food which also would satisfy your hunger. The primary aim of any acquisition for defense is to ensure that India becomes strong in its defense capabilities.
So is the secondary aim being served?
Obviously, anyone will like to use secondary benefit of any deal. It's like getting a bonus. But I'll tell you, government to government acquisition is not happening for the first time. The Vikramaditya, for example, is an old aircraft carrier from Russia which has been done on government to government deal. Then probably Mirage 2000 was government to government deal. I can quote dozens of big deals which has happened government to government.
But what one gets a sense of by looking at you and how you're conducting deals and how your government is doing it, at least in the first year, there is an obvious preference of sorts for government to government. Am I right in presuming that?
See, I'll put it, when defense procurement procedure came into picture, earlier deals were happening in a, or I will put it more, government to government discussion and finalization of contract were done in many cases. Once the procurement procedure came, it actually brought the full process into a ironclad framework, which is very difficult many times for a very complex platforms to be acquired. This Rafale deal, for example, was initiated in 2000.
That's right.
At that time it may not be Rafale deal. For procurement of that time it was again not fourth generation, maybe 3.5 generation, but as it went it got upgraded to fourth generation. 2005 it was given a approval, and 2009, 8 or 9 RFP was floated, 2007 if I am not mistaken, and 2012 L1 was declared.
That's right.
3 years hence nothing was moving, it was moving in circles and circles, because these platforms are very complex. You cannot discuss 2 different kinds of aircraft, 2 different kinds of missile exactly in the same basket. They are different in each variety, and many times minor things get the full big acquisition stuck up. You are seeing few government to government exercise because this government is very proactive and does not want to create a void in the defense
So you're
capabilities
saying
of the
this is
state.
not going to be a preferred route going forward? You are
Not
going to be-
necessarily. It could be a route if the nation needs it.
Fair
But
point.
it's not necessary that this is going to be route.
The reason why I ask you this question is because I think very soon after you took office, you said that the UPA had an obnoxious policy of blanket blacklisting, and in defense procurement, something like that is unsustainable. The question what I'm asking is, if there are so many government-to-government deals, why don't you just do away with these middlemen? I mean, why have them registered, have them legalized, something that you've spoken about?
No, not all necessary, all deals. I mean, you are talking about the big deals, the complex one.
Right.
Platform for fourth generation multi-role fighter attack aircraft is a different from procuring some small guns and probably procuring ammunition or maybe some anti-tank missiles. Those are small value items. Those are probably each one costing 10 crores, 20 crores, 30 crores, in that range. This is a complete different deal. What I am saying is a complex deal, possibility of getting a result through government to government could be a better solution, provided the necessity demands it.
But the small
If you have a
deals
time,
go through this.
if you have a time, probably RFP route could be better route.
Fair point.
Here the Rafale deal was a good exercise. Ultimately let the finality come to it. Then I think the deal itself will justify what is the cause for it. But that was a good decision because it was being taken after 15 years of no movement, 15 years of total
Inertia of sorts.
total standstill condition, total chaotic condition. So I think there had to be someone who had to break the ice. Modi ji did that. An excellent, of course, it's only a parameter he has fixed. The rest discussion will prove that this was a good decision.
I want to go back to the question though of people being blacklisted. I know you want to have a review of how this has been done in a blanket sort of a way. How are you going to deal with this condition going forward? I mean, defense has been plagued with anonymous letters, stalling people, all kinds of vested parties playing havoc. How are you going to wade your way through this mess?
We have already done that. Though the process is not complete because there is a committee formed which is looking into all defense procurement. But I think, for example, letters, complaints, they have to be dealt based on who is complaining, whether it is complaint by a genuine person or whether it's complaint without any head or tail. But even there, if I find that the substance has some meaning, the allegation or the complaint has some meaning, I do check it. I do check it. But I think that we should not stop the process because of a complaint unless there is a prima facie case. I'll tell you two very important factors which should be taken into consideration before we finalize this. One, worldwide, there are very few defense companies which have some technological product to offer. There might be more companies, but they don't offer. The people who are ready to offer are few. They have interconnection in sense that a particular company might also have some shares of another company, and this is it's a web, almost a web. So you touch one part of it, the full net gets affected. That's one. Two, when you want to blacklist someone, you cannot do it for a product which you are already procuring you can at least consider,
because you need
but you already have, for example, Tetra trucks were banned for some time. We have opened it with restriction, but Tatra we have almost some 7,000 or 6,000 of them in the army. No, I'll explain you further. The third important aspect of it is what happens to those cases. Will you please cite me a single case where our agencies, investigative agencies have managed to actually ultimately
find the culprit,
file a case and get a conviction. So after 6 years of you suffering, we suffering, Daniel, for example, a case of
That's right,
Daniel,
yes.
South Africa, we
Yes.
paid 65 crores for getting TOT, the technical expertise.
That's right.
Then something went wrong, some CBI case came, something, we banned them. And we didn't get the technology while already having paid them.
So does the solution somewhere lie to not ban the company or the technology that we
necessary.
need, but the solution lies in perhaps punishing the wrong people and moving on? And is that what you're going to focus?
Solution lies in avoiding punishment to the extent of the crime. You can't punish for a small marginal violation of condition and a major violation
You
with
have
the
to actually tell
same tarazu.
Over enthusiastic institutions should be kept.
Sometimes the reactions have been too fast and too panic struck. First, if there is a complaint of an particular, because in defense we don't buy things overnight.
That's right.
There has to be proper investigation, proper scrutiny of the issue, and then punishment commensurate with the crime should be given, including blacklisting
True,
if required.
True.
Give a very harsh punishment, but don't overreact for every case.
Do you believe one of the reasons why our procurement has been so delayed and so tardy is because of overactive institutions who suddenly take charge because there's a complaint, because there's an allegation made? I'm asking you as a very frank defense minister.
Allegations will fly. People from the other camp who doesn't get the order may also, through various routes, put up a complaint. And every complaint needs to be investigated, and I am very clear that even a complaint without proper name, address, if I find some substance which strikes me about verifying, I do get it verified. So, we should not lower our guard on vigilance.
Right.
We should not lower our guard on
But you can't work with blinders in a
genuine.
sector like
But you can't go on reacting to every complaint on the spot.
That's right.
Let the complaint be verified. If true, take serious action. But if not true, have a courage to go ahead with it.
Before I move on to whole Make in India and defense manufacturing in the country, I have two quick questions to ask of you. Actually, one, there were certain reports that indicated that the Eurofighter from Germany and UK in the terms of cost cycle was perhaps a little cheaper than Rafale. You still chose to go with it. And the Prime Minister has had a very successful trip to China. At any stage, will you be open to procuring defense equipments from China? Can that be a possibility in our lifetimes?
The first part is I will reply when the actual deal
That's the Eurofighter.
with the Rafale is actually completed. No point, because today there is a decision that we buy 36
That's right, I understand.
aircraft, but at what price, what terms, that will be defined only when the deal is totally completed.
That's right.
Which may take 2 to 2.5 months. Regarding second, I think it is a question which probably cannot be answered in the current scenario, obviously, because while I will love to have my neighbors as my friends, the current scenario does not indicate that.
They're not as friendly.
No, we will like to improve the relations.
Because a lot of people believe that, say for instance, the stealth bomb technology, which is only with the US, China is the only other country that has it. Why doesn't India leverage its good relations with China and get something like this on board?
Why are you making all war preparedness?
No, I'm not.
I
I'll
think
just move on to...
you need to answer that first before I answer your question.
Fair point indeed. I will move on to something that your government has done and you've been lauded for it, which is opening up the FDI in the defense sector. It has gone up to 49%, but the pitfall is that no big investor has really come in to park the top dollar, and many people believe it's because defense is such a sensitive sector in terms of technology transfer. Unless you give them ownership, they will not park in their money here. So at any stage, will you be open to a higher FDI in defense?
When you enter this building, you must have gone through different security doors.
I did.
Unless the first security gate is opened, you cannot reach here. So opening the first security gate does not mean you have reached my room. There are different stages of issue to be handled. FDI 49% is the initial stage where you create an conducive atmosphere for anyone, if he desires to come, create an atmosphere for him to come. You welcome him at the first door. Now, we will require to create structural changes in our full procurement procedure in order to ensure that private sector participation takes place in defense.
Right.
And I will tell you one thing, people sometimes, we in India many times expect miracles overnight. For example, some people ask me, एक बरस में क्या किया? बहुत कुछ किया है, लेकिन एक बरस में सब चीज़ें करना और किया हुआ सभी मतलब all the efforts you have put in during the 1 year can't be reflected immediately. Some of them will have a longer period. Like for example, you put up a mango graft. You don't get fruits. I'm not telling you the old story when an old man was putting up a mango sampling and someone asked him that question and he said, my grandson will eat. Nowadays you get grafts which delivers mango after 4 years. But even then 4 years, 3 years.
Fair point.
So 1 year you can't get all the results. When I started as a industrialist way back in 1980s, before coming to politics, it took me 3.5 years to establish my factory, a small scale unit. In defense, whatever kind of setup we require will take 2, 3, 4 years to actually get it on the ground.
Is 49% stage 1 the first security guard I met, and perhaps it could be relaxed getting into your room?
No, there is a rule, no, it's not the same door, but there is a rule, sub-rule to this, that in case-to-case basis, it can be increased.
Yes.
But the second door probably is willingness by the defense to buy material from the private sector. We are showing those willingness now.
I was going to ask you this question, and I know I'm running out of time. 2 very quick last questions. The Indian private players are very excited about the opportunity, but they do not know where do they stand, because they say that unless and until we do not have assured procurement from the government, how do you expect us to start making defense equipments? How do you?
This is exactly what I'm saying.
Yes. So
now, first cases have begun. One is, for example, the DAC decision,
that's right,
which officially will be minuted now, and there are logic behind it, is for replacement of Avro by Airbus.
That's right.
C295, where 14, if I'm not, I think it is 14 aircrafts will be purchased in flyaway condition. The rest will be manufactured in India by Airbus industry in partnership with Tata Group, Tata Advanced Material. So that means there is already an order on private sector through, of course, FDI route. They will have to come give the technology here. What we are trying to achieve is ultimately a ecosystem for aero industry. So I think like that there are cases, for example, the gun 155 by 52 towed gun is being procured from private sectors. Of course, OFB are also welcome to quote in that.
True.
There is a P75I Navy frigate which is also being, submarine, which is also being procured from
So are you here saying that the Defense Ministry is going to create a field for the private sector to operate in? I mean, they perhaps want to know that what kind of avenues will be open for us.
Obviously.
We've heard that yes, there will be avenues.
No one will keep ware in the market unless there are customers to buy it.
Yes.
And here is the only one customer, at least in the initial phase. Maybe after you create a ecosystem, they will be able to export it, sell it
because
somewhere
that's
else.
the other allegation, that the DRDO doesn't really encourage them to export as much as they would want to.
We have now got online export. There are restrictions because of international armed treaties and international regulations where you can export certain item based on end use and to countries which honor them. So those restrictions will remain.
Because I think one of the arguments that people say is, look at US, when they are talking about developing the B-3 bomber, they are just talking to 2 companies in the United States. They're not speaking to foreign companies, they're not speaking to a host of companies. Why doesn't the Indian government behave like that? Is that because our defense manufacturers haven't got to that level? And you would want them to? What is
Not
the
to
message
that
that you would like to
level.
give to private sector players?
No, at this stage, there is virtually, except in few areas, there is no virtual private sector in a real sense. Some of them have started coming up now, and they will require a lot of technical handholding. It's not that you can get all these advanced technologies overnight, or you can develop them overnight. DRDO has been instructed to induce private sector into development stage itself, and we will welcome various foreign companies, maybe American, maybe French, maybe Russian, to come and set up their shop in India along with private players, Indian industry, so that full defense production through private sector concept can be taken forward.
Before I thank you, I can't let the defense minister of this country go without mentioning Pervez Musharraf's infamous comment that he made yesterday. But this is the first acknowledgement of sorts that Pakistan was in fact involved in the Kargil conflict. Will India take this matter to the United Nations and ask them to be declared an aggressor, at least now that the candid admission has come, for whatever reason it has?
The issue of taking it to the United Nations falls, you'll have to ask that question to Sushma ji, but I can say one thing. When ultimately you have won a game, there is no point, this is my opinion about certain things. Those are only for the history to put it as a recorded and proved facts. But after winning the game, you don't complain that the ball was tampered with.
That's a very fair argument to end this interview on. Thanks very much for talking to us, sir.
Thank you.